Imagine standing in a dark, damp cave, the only light coming from a flickering torch. The air is thick with history, and the silence is broken only by the crackle of flame. Before writing, before language, these early humans left behind messages etched in pigment. Their stories were not just drawings, but echoes of a world we can only begin to understand. What drove them to paint? Was it ritual, memory, or a way to make sense of the unknown? The answers lie in the silence of these ancient walls. These are not just artworks. They are the first stories ever told, a glimpse into the minds of our ancestors and the origins of human imagination. As we look at these paintings, we are not just seeing the past. We are witnessing the birth of storytelling itself, a spark that would light the way for all human culture. We're talking about more than just pictures on a wall. These are the earliest forms of storytelling, attempts to capture the essence of the world around them. They are not just art. They are the first narratives, the first ways to make sense of the unknown. The figures are not random. They are carefully placed, often in groups or sequences, suggesting a narrative intent. These are not just representations. They are the first attempt to convey meaning, to tell a story that transcended the moment. These paintings are not static. They were made with intention, with care, and with an awareness of their significance. The materials used, ochre, charcoal, bone, are not just tools, but part of a broader cultural and spiritual practice. There is something profoundly human about these works. They are not just records of what was seen. They are reflections of what was felt, what was believed, and what was feared. They are the first stories, written in pigment and meaning. These paintings are not just ancient art. They are the earliest known records of human imagination, memory, and meaning. They are the first stories, written in pigment and shadow, capturing the essence of a world long gone. By studying these images, we're not just looking at prehistoric art. We're peering into the minds of people who saw the world differently, who used symbols to make sense of the unknown, and who built the foundation of all human storytelling. Every line, every color, every shape is a piece of a puzzle we are still trying to solve. These are not relics of the past. They are clues to our origins, written in a language that still speaks to us across the millennia. To ignore these stories is to forget the roots of our own creativity, our shared humanity, and the very way we make sense of the world. They are not just history. They are the beginning of everything. The first stories were not written in ink, but etched into stone and painted onto cave walls. These early humans were not just recording their world. They were giving it meaning, creating a shared language across time. From 35,000 years ago, we see handprints, spirals, and figures that may represent ancestors, animals, or abstract thoughts. These marks were the earliest form of narrative, a way to communicate beyond the spoken word. The act of painting was not just artistic. It was ritual, spiritual, and scientific. These images may have served to invoke the spirit of the hunted animal, to ensure a successful hunt, or to preserve knowledge for future generations. By 10,000 BCE, as humans transitioned to settled life, the caves themselves became less central to storytelling. But the legacy of these early artists remained, a foundation for all future narrative traditions. These early stories, painted in darkness, became the roots of human culture. They are a testament to our desire to understand, to remember, and to create meaning in a world that is, by itself, silent and indifferent. Imagine you're standing in a dark cave, holding a torch, and you see a picture of a bison on the wall. That picture is not just art. It's a story, a way to remember how to hunt and survive. These drawings were made by people who lived thousands of years ago, long before anyone had written words. They used colors from nature, like charcoal and red ochre, to tell their world. These early stories helped them feel connected to their world and each other. They were the first books, the first way to share experiences and pass on wisdom. So, even though they didn't have words, they had a way to tell their stories. That's why cave paintings are like the first chapters of human history. The process began with a deep understanding of the natural world. Early humans studied their environment, observing the patterns of light, the movement of shadows, and the subtle changes in the rock formations around them. They chose sites that offered both shelter and visibility. Caves were not just places to live, but spaces where stories could be told in silence, protected from the elements and the eyes of others. The tools they used were simple but deliberate. Charcoal, ochre, and other natural pigments were mixed with animal fat or water to create a paint that could stick to the stone. They prepared the surfaces carefully, using their fingers or rudimentary brushes to smooth the rock and create a clean, even base for their images. Every stroke was intentional, every line a whisper of the world they sought to remember and share. These were not just drawings, but the first attempts to capture the essence of their lives. The second step in this process is the act of creation itself. Early humans prepared their pigments with great care, often grinding minerals into fine powders and mixing them with water or animal fat to create a paint. They then applied these pigments using their hands, fingers, or rudimentary tools like brushes made from animal hair or twigs. This was not just a method, but a ritual of communication. These tools and techniques allowed them to translate the intangible, memories, myths, and observations, into permanent marks. Every line and shape carried meaning, a shared language between the artist and the viewer. The process was slow, deliberate, and deeply symbolic. Each mark was a step in storytelling, a bridge between the present and the ancestral past. It was not just art, it was memory made visible. Now, the clever twist lies in the use of natural pigments and the mastery of light and shadow. Early artists didn't just paint, they sculpted space with color, creating depth and movement that made their stories feel alive. They understood that color wasn't just a decoration. It was a way to guide the eye and create an illusion of three-dimensional space, making the painted figures appear to emerge from the rock itself. This technique, known as shading, allowed them to create a sense of volume and realism, turning flat surfaces into lifelike representations of animals and human figures. By using the natural contours of the cave walls, they transformed the space into a canvas, allowing their stories to unfold in a way that felt immersive and immediate to those who viewed them. This was not just art. It was a method of storytelling, a way of encoding knowledge, belief, and experience into the very fabric of the cave itself, for generations to come. Beneath the surface of these ancient images lies a complex interplay of chemistry and biology that has helped preserve them for millennia. The pigments, made from minerals and organic substances, reacted with the cave's environment in ways we are only now beginning to fully understand. Carbon dating and isotopic analysis have revealed the precise age of many of these paintings, but they also hint at the environmental conditions of the time: droughts, fires, and even the presence of microorganisms that may have influenced the pigment's preservation. Modern techniques like laser scanning and 3D imaging allow us to see details that the naked eye cannot, revealing how these early humans navigated space and time, layering their stories across generations. The science of these caves is not just about the past. It's a bridge to understanding how early humans made sense of their world, using materials and methods that have shaped human storytelling for tens of thousands of years. Imagine a child trying to draw a horse with crayons, only to end up with a blob of color. That's not a failure. It's a beginning. The first stories were never perfect, but they were honest. Cave paintings were like that. Simple, raw, and full of meaning. They weren't about realism. They were about resonance, about connecting with the world in a way that felt real. We often mistake the complexity of modern storytelling for the measure of truth. But in the caves, the most powerful stories were the simplest, because they came from the heart, not the mind. To look at these paintings is to witness the first act of storytelling, not as an art form, but as a way of being in the world. They are the echo of a voice that has long since faded, but still speaks to us. In the end, the greatest stories are not the ones that are most precise, but the ones that are most true. And the first stories, though painted in caves, were never about perfection. They were about presence. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. Imagine a world without words, where memory is passed like firelight, flickering and fading with each generation. Then, one day, a hand pressed into clay, shaping the unknown into something that could outlive the body. This was not just the birth of a tool, but the birth of a way to hold time itself in the palm of a hand. Writing was not an invention. It was a revolution that would change how we see, remember, and become. The first words were not just marks on a surface. They were the first echoes of the human soul, reaching across centuries. So what exactly are we talking about? It's not just about symbols on a wall or scratches in clay. It's about the first time humans tried to put their thoughts into something that could outlive them. Writing wasn't a luxury. It was a necessity. It was how early societies recorded trade, laws, and the very stories that shaped their identities. It was their way of leaving a mark on time. Each symbol, each line, was more than a mark. It was a choice to preserve, to communicate, to define who they were in a world that often forgot them. We are not just talking about writing. We are talking about memory, about how humanity first learned to hold on to its past in a world that was always moving forward. You think your life is too fleeting to leave a mark? But the ancient scribes knew differently. They saw writing not just as a tool, but as a way to outlive their own hands. Every word they carved into stone or etched onto clay was an act of defiance against time. They knew they would die, but they wanted their thoughts to echo across the ages. You don't need to write a book to care. Just think about how your own memories fade, how your voice might one day be lost. Writing is the quiet rebellion against that silence. When you read a sentence from thousands of years ago, you're not just reading words. You're touching the mind of someone who once stood where you stand, who looked at the same stars and who wondered about the same questions. The power of writing is that it lets us step into the past, not as ghosts, but as living voices. It connects us to those who came before, and gives us a chance to be heard in the future. We begin in Mesopotamia, where clay tablets etched with cuneiform first captured the human voice. The written word was not just a record, but a promise of permanence in a world of fleeting moments. In Egypt, scribes carved hieroglyphs into temple walls, ensuring the gods and pharaohs would live forever in stone. Their script was both a language and a monument to power. The Greeks, with their linear alphabets, turned writing into a tool of democracy. A citizen could now read the laws, debate the state, and shape the future of his city. In the East, the Chinese mastered the brush and ink, turning words into art. Calligraphy was not merely writing. It was a spiritual practice, a bridge between the self and the cosmos. And in the desert, the Hebrews etched their covenant into stone, turning a simple act of writing into a faith that would outlive empires and endure through centuries. Imagine you're standing on a hill, watching your people build something that will last forever. That's what writing was for them, proof that they were here, that they thought, that they mattered. Before writing, stories were passed by voice, but they faded like smoke. Writing made them solid, like the stones they built their cities from. It wasn't just about words. It was about time. Writing allowed them to mark the passing of days, seasons, and generations, like a heartbeat that never stops. So, when you write today, you're part of that same long line. You're holding a piece of the past, and adding to the story that will be read by others long after you're gone. Before the first stroke of ink, there was a purpose. A civilization sought to record its voice, to hold time in its hands. It began not with words, but with a surface, smooth clay, stone, or papyrus, ready to receive the weight of human thought. The scribe, often a priest or a scholar, stood at the center of this act. Their hands, steady and precise, would shape the future of communication. They were not just writers. They were the guardians of memory and meaning. The materials were simple, yet their significance was profound. The clay, the reed, the ink. Each was a vessel for the mind's deepest concerns. The tools were humble, but their purpose was eternal, to preserve what would otherwise be lost. The scribe's first stroke was a declaration. It was not just a mark, but a commitment to record, to tell, to remember. This was the beginning of a legacy that would echo through the ages. In this moment, the act of writing was not just a task. It was an offering to time itself, a way to speak to the future, to leave a trace of who we were and who we hoped to be. Once the scribe had mastered the symbols, the next step was to inscribe them onto a durable medium. Clay tablets, papyrus, or even stone became the vessels for human thought. Each surface a blank canvas waiting to be filled with the weight of history. The act of writing was not just about marking symbols. It was about shaping time itself. Each stroke of the reed or chisel captured a moment, a thought, a truth that would outlive the scribe and the scribe's own fleeting existence. The physicality of writing was as much a part of its meaning as the symbols themselves. The texture of the medium, the weight of the tool, the sound of the reed scraping against the surface, all were part of a ritual of preserving memory. In the hands of the scribe, writing was not just a skill, but a responsibility. Each symbol was a thread in the fabric of history, and the scribe's task was to weave it carefully, ensuring that the past would not be forgotten. Through this careful process, the scribe did more than record words. They preserved identity, culture, and the very essence of human experience. Writing was the first step in making time immortal. The third step in the rise of writing is the clever twist, the shift from mere record-keeping to the expression of identity. Symbols begin to carry meaning beyond their function, becoming markers of the self. Names, titles, and personal stories now appear in texts, giving individuals a place in the vast narrative of history. This is when writing becomes more than a tool. It becomes a voice. In Sumer, names of kings are etched with pride, while in China, the brushstroke becomes a reflection of the mind's depth. Writing is now a way to assert presence in time. This transformation is subtle, yet profound. It's not just that writing captures events, but that it allows people to leave their mark, to be remembered, to be known. The clever twist is the moment writing becomes personal. It is the birth of identity in ink and stone, and the first step toward the power of memory itself. Beneath the grandeur of symbols and stories, writing is a science of time, measuring moments, shaping memory, and preserving the human voice across the vast, unrelenting expanse of history. In the hands of scribes, writing becomes a tool of precision, a way to measure not only space, but the weight of words, the rhythm of thought, and the passage of ages. Writing, at its core, is an act of encoding, translating the ephemeral into the enduring, the human experience into something that can outlive the body in the moment. The science of writing is not just about recording facts. It's about shaping the very framework of how we see ourselves, how we remember, and how we become part of the story. In every stroke of the pen, in every chiseled line, there is a hum of the past, a resonance of the human need to capture time, to make sense of it, and to leave something behind. Imagine a river flowing with the weight of time. It carries the voices of those who came before, whispering their thoughts, their stories, their dreams into the stone. Writing is like that river. It does not create the past, but it carries it forward, making it real in the minds of those who come after. It's not just a tool, it's a bridge between the moment and the memory, between the self and the collective, between the known and the unknown. In this way, writing is not just a record. It's a way of being, a way of remembering, a way of standing in time. So, let's not be too clever. Writing is not a miracle. It's a memory. And memories, when written, become something that outlives the moment. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. You wake up and suddenly you're in a room you've never been to. Yet it feels familiar. You walk through it and every detail is fresh, as if you've lived here your whole life. You try to remember where you've seen this place before, but the memory feels distant, like it's just out of reach. It's there, but you can't grasp it. This is the mind, a place where we store our lives, yet it's never the same from one moment to the next. It's a library, but not one you can navigate with a map. Every memory we have is a book, and every time we try to recall, we're not just reading, it's like we're trying to reassemble a room that once was. So why do we forget? And what happens to the memories we can't find? This is the story of how our brains build, lose, and sometimes even rewrite the past. We're talking about memory. Not just the way we recall facts, but how the brain encodes, stores, and retrieves experiences. It's not a single system, but a network of regions working in harmony, much like a library with multiple shelves and catalog systems. Memory is not a recording, but a reconstruction. Every time we recall something, we're rebuilding it from fragments stored across different parts of the brain. It's like trying to piece together a puzzle from a jumbled box of pieces. Forgetting is not always a failure. It's often the brain's way of managing information overload. When we forget something, it doesn't mean we've lost it. It means it's stored in a place we can't easily access, much like a book buried under a pile of other books. The brain has mechanisms to strengthen or weaken memories based on use. Repetition and emotional intensity can solidify a memory, while disuse or lack of emotional context can fade it. It's a dynamic, living process, not a static archive. But what if we could control this process? What if we could edit memories, or at least understand how they form and vanish? That's where the science of memory becomes both fascinating and unsettling, a window into the most private corners of our minds. You might think forgetting is a flaw, but in truth, it's a survival mechanism. The brain doesn't hold on to everything. It prunes the unnecessary, like a gardener clearing dead leaves to make room for new growth. Every time you forget something, it's not a loss. It's a recalibration. The brain is constantly reorganizing itself, strengthening some memories and letting others fade, like a city updating its infrastructure to better serve its people. The science of memory is not just about remembering. It's about understanding how the mind shapes reality. What you remember defines who you are, and what you forget shapes the stories you tell yourself. If you neglect your mind, it's not just your memory that suffers. It's your sense of self. The brain is not a passive vault. It's a living, evolving system that reflects your choices and your values. So, yes, you should care about memory, not because you want to remember everything, but because you want to understand how you are shaped by what you choose to keep and what you let go. The mind is not a library. It's a living ecosystem. And in that ecosystem, every memory is a seed, waiting to grow or to wither, depending on how you tend to it. The first known written memory systems emerged in Mesopotamia around 3000 BCE. Clay tablets encoded oral traditions, but they lacked the fluidity of human thought. These early records were rigid, like stone statues, preserving only fragments of a shifting mind. By 400 BCE, Greek philosophers like Plato began to conceptualize the mind as a kind of vessel, a container for thoughts and memories. He imagined the soul as a traveler through time, seeking knowledge in the ever-changing landscape of human experience. In the 19th century, the birth of neuroscience began to uncover the physical basis of memory. Hermann Ebbinghaus experiments on forgetting, known as the forgetting curve, revealed that memory fades over time, but not without trace. The 20th century saw the rise of cognitive science, which treated the mind as a system of information processing. Memory was no longer just about recollection. It was about encoding, storage, and retrieval, like a complex computer running on the brain's hardware. Today, we understand memory as a biological process, shaped by neurons, synapses, and the rhythms of the brain. It's not a perfect library, but a living, breathing system that both remembers and forgets, in a delicate balance of preservation and decay. Imagine your brain as a library, and your memories are the books inside. Every time you learn something, you're adding a new book to the shelves. But unlike a library, your brain doesn't keep every book forever. Sometimes the books get moved, forgotten, or even lost. Forgetting isn't always a mistake. Sometimes your brain chooses to forget to make room for new, important memories. And sometimes your brain can't find a book, not because it's gone, but because it's just hidden in a part of the library you can't reach. So, when you forget something, it's not because your brain is broken. It's just trying to manage all the books you've ever read. Before memory can form, the brain must be ready. It needs a stable environment, a quiet moment, a moment where attention is fully present. This is the setup, the foundation upon which memory is built. The brain is not a machine that just records everything. It is selective, and it starts by screening what is worth remembering. This is where attention acts as the gatekeeper, deciding which experiences will be stored. At the core of this process is the hippocampus, a small structure in the brain that acts like a temporary storage room. It is the first place where new memories are processed and given structure. But the hippocampus doesn't hold memories forever. It is more like a librarian who organizes and prepares the information for long-term storage. It does not keep the books, only the catalog. So, the first step in forming a memory is not just about what we experience, but about how we engage with it. It's about being present, attentive, and allowing the brain to set the stage for what is to come. Once the memory is encoded, it must be stored. This is where the brain's neural networks come into play, forming intricate pathways that act as a kind of digital archive, preserving the memory in a stable, retrievable form. Storage isn't just about holding the memory. It's about organizing it. The brain uses a combination of spatial and semantic coding, arranging memories in clusters based on context, meaning, and emotional weight. Yet, storage is not infallible. Over time, without retrieval, memories can weaken, fade, or become inaccessible, like books left unopened on a shelf, their pages yellowing and their stories drifting into obscurity. This process is both fragile and resilient. The brain's ability to store and protect memories is a delicate balance, shaped by genetics, environment, and the constant interplay of memory and forgetting. So, the second step, storage, is a silent, ongoing act of preservation. It's the brain's way of keeping the past alive, even as the present moves forward. Now, the brain doesn't just store memories like books on a shelf. It weaves them into a complex web, connecting ideas, emotions, and experiences in a way that feels intuitive, yet is built on intricate patterns of neural activity. This interconnectedness allows us to recall not just facts, but the context in which they were learned, like the smell of a place, the sound of a voice, or the feeling of a moment that lingers in memory long after the event is gone. This dynamic process means that memory isn't fixed. It evolves, reshapes, and even rewrites itself. Every time we recall a memory, we're not just retrieving it, but subtly altering it, making it a living, breathing part of our mind. So, in this way, the brain's memory system isn't just storage. It's a form of storytelling, a way of making sense of the world by linking past, present, and future in a continuous, ever-changing narrative. And that, in the end, is why we remember some things and forget others. Not because the brain is flawed, but because it's designed to adapt, to grow, and to make meaning from the chaos of experience. Beneath the surface of our thoughts the brain operates like a vast, silent symphony. Neurons fire in precise patterns, each one a note in an intricate composition of memory and perception. These patterns are not fixed, but dynamic, shifting with every experience, reshaping themselves in ways we can barely comprehend. Memory is not stored in one place, but is a distributed network of activity across the brain, encoded in the strength and timing of synaptic connections. Forgetting is not failure, but a necessary process that allows the brain to free up space for new information and to refine what it holds. The mind is not a library, but a living, evolving system. A web of associations, a network of possibilities, constantly rewriting itself. Imagine the mind as a library, not one built by human hands, but one grown from the soil of memory and time. Every book is a moment, every shelf a thought, every stack a story that once mattered. You are not the librarian, but the wanderer, stumbling through aisles, forgetting where you've been, yet always returning to the same familiar corners. The shelves rearrange themselves, and the books change, but the essence remains. The mind forgets not because it is broken, but because it is alive. To remember is to hold on, but to forget is to let go. Sometimes with grace, sometimes with regret. Yet, in this library, the most important books are not those you remember, but those you forgot. They are the ones that shaped you, even when you did not know they were there. So let us be kind to the mind, not as a machine, but as a library. Old, vast, and full of stories that even it cannot always recall. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. You know the feeling when you're scrolling through your phone, and for a moment, it feels like you're not just looking at a screen, you're looking at a window into your own past. Every post, every message, every photo, it's like we're building a digital version of ourselves, piece by piece, memory by memory. We're not just preserving memories, we're shaping identity, rewriting who we were and deciding who we'll be remembered as. And in doing so, we're asking a question that's both profound and terrifying. What does it mean to be remembered? And who gets to decide that? This isn't just about technology anymore. It's about memory, identity, and the fragile line between who we are and who we want to be remembered as. So what exactly are we talking about? It's not just about saving photos or videos. It's about capturing the essence of who we are. Our thoughts, our stories, even our emotions, digitally, so they can live on long after we're gone. Digital immortality isn't just about preservation. It's about transformation. What we remember, what we choose to remember, and how we shape our identity through the digital fragments we leave behind. It's also about legacy. Who gets to decide what we remember? What parts of our lives are deemed worthy of being preserved? And what parts are forgotten, even if they were important to us? We're not just storing data. We're storing identity. And as technology evolves, so does the way we define who we are and who we will be remembered as. In this new era, memory is no longer just a personal experience. It's a collective, a digital inheritance that shapes how we see ourselves and how the world remembers us. You think you're just uploading a photo, but you're actually encoding a piece of your life into the vast, impersonal machinery of the digital world. Every click, every share, every like is a brushstroke on the canvas of your existence, and you're not even aware of it. What you leave behind isn't just data. It's a fragment of who you were, how you saw the world, and what you valued. It's not just a memory. It's a message in a bottle, sent into the future without a return address. When you're gone, the data won't disappear, but the context will. The people who remember you will be gone, and the systems that hold your memories will outlive you. Or not. It's a kind of afterlife, but one you can't choose. You may not want to be remembered, but the truth is, you will be. And the way you're remembered is not up to you. It's up to the algorithms, the platforms, the people who choose to click, scroll, and share. Digital immortality is not a promise of eternal presence. It's a fragile, shifting thing, a shadow of you, caught between the living and the dead, shaped by others, not by you. We used to remember things through stories, through songs, through the faces of those who came before us. Now, we remember through code, through files, through the cold glow of screens that don't fade. The first digital records were born in the 1950s, in labs where scientists tried to capture the human voice. They didn't know they were building the foundation of how we'd one day remember ourselves. By the 1980s, we were storing photos, letters, even entire conversations in the cloud of our own making. We thought we were preserving memories, but we were also shaping new identities in the process. The 2000s brought cameras in our pockets, voices in our phones, and the illusion that we could never truly forget. But with every click, we also started to forget how to live in the moment. Today, we're not just remembering, we're becoming data. We're being stored, copied, curated, and maybe even erased. The line between who we are and what we remember is fading. We've moved from memory to machine, from soul to storage. But in doing so, we've also asked a question that echoes through time. What does it mean to be remembered? And who gets to decide? Imagine if your thoughts never left you. If your memories lived on, even when you're not around. That's what digital immortality is like for some people. You can tell stories, share ideas, and even leave behind your voice. But it's not just about what you say, it's about who you are. But what if the story you're telling isn't really yours? What if your words are shaped by the tools you use and the people who control them? Digital immortality isn't just about living forever. It's about being remembered and maybe even being misunderstood. That's the tricky part. The journey begins with a single decision, a moment of quiet resolve. You choose to leave something behind, not just in memory, but in code, in data, in the quiet hum of a server somewhere in the world. You set up the foundation, selecting the tools, the platforms, the vaults where your thoughts, your voice, your life will be stored. It's not just about what you share, but how it will be remembered. You choose the format: text, audio, video, or something more complex. Artificial intelligence trained on your voice, your handwriting, your patterns of thought. You are not just preserving your words, but your essence. And then you wait. The setup is just the beginning, but it is the first step in a long, silent process of becoming something that outlives you. You are not just storing data. You are building a monument to yourself. Once the data is captured, it's transformed into something more than just bits and bytes. It's encoded, stored, and made ready for the long, uncertain journey through time. This is where memory becomes material. The digital echo of a person is no longer just a collection of files. It's structured, indexed, and preserved in a way that mimics the logic of human recollection. This is where the line between preservation and creation blurs. The machine doesn't just remember. It begins to reconstruct, to reinterpret, to imagine what it means to be remembered. And so the digital soul is not just stored. It is shaped, refined, and given a form that might one day feel more like the person it was meant to represent. In this quiet, mechanical act of preservation, something profound is happening. A person is being given a second life, not in flesh, but in code. The clever twist isn't just about storing memories. It's about giving them meaning. It's the algorithm that knows not only what to save, but also how to shape it into something enduring, something that feels like a part of you. It doesn't just capture moments, it interprets them. It learns from your voice, your gestures, your silences. It builds a kind of second self. Less a mirror, more a storyteller. The twist lies in making the memory feel real. It's not just about preservation. It's about presence. A form of you that can speak, that can listen, that can be with you in ways you never imagined. This is the quiet revolution of the digital age. Not of war or power, but of identity. You are not just remembered. You are remade. And the question is, who gets to decide how you are remembered? In this new era of memory, the clever twist is not a trick. It's a transformation. It's not about living forever, but about being remembered in a way that feels like living at all. Beneath the surface of all this, there's a quiet revolution in how we preserve memory. It's not just about saving data, it's about rewriting the very fabric of who we are. Neural networks, quantum computing, and synthetic biology are no longer the stuff of science fiction. They're shaping a future where memory isn't just stored, but transformed. This science hums beneath the surface, unseen but ever present, like the heartbeat of a machine that's learning to feel. What we remember and who we are is no longer just about the past. It's about the future we're building, one bite at a time. Imagine your mind as a library, each memory a book. But now, instead of shelves, your memories are stored in the cloud, remote, accessible, and never truly yours. You can search for your past, edit it, even delete it. But in doing so, you lose the texture of time, how it felt to remember, how it shaped who you are. Technology offers a mirror to our minds, but it's not a mirror. It's a window. And sometimes the window shows you something that isn't quite you. We are becoming curators of our own lives, selecting which memories to keep and which to forget. But in the process, we risk losing the very essence of what makes us human. In the end, digital immortality is not about living forever. It's about remembering how to live and how to be remembered. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end.